Hey everyone, today we are going to be finding the volume of pyramids. Now, in order to find the volume of pyramids, we have a new formula that we need to use. Now, we are only going to be exploring pyramids that have a rectangular base, so we call those rectangular pyramids. And because of that, we are just going to be using this formula right here. Volume equals 1/3 times the length times width times height, which is also shortened to volume, or V, equals 1/3 times L times W times H. Okay, so we're going to have to multiply 4 different numbers together. All right, so if we look at this rectangular pyramid here, I identified the length, which was 3 feet, the width, which was 4 feet, and the height, which was 7 feet, which is denoted by this red line here. Okay, in order to find the volume of this pyramid, we simply need to multiply these 3 measurements together along with 1/3. Okay, so our first step is to plug in this information into this equation, and then our second step is going to be multiply all those numbers together. So I already typed in the 1/3 for you. I'm going to bring down a multiplication sign. Now, instead of writing L, which is my length, I'm going to plug in the number that represents the length of this pyramid, which is 3. So I'm going to type in 3. I'm going to bring down my next multiplication sign. Now, the next number that I need is my width. I know my width is 4, so instead of writing W, I'm going to plug in 4. Bring down another multiplication sign. And now I need to plug in my height. I know my height is 7 feet, so I'm just going to plug in 7. Okay, that's all we have to do for that text box. Now, to actually find the volume of this pyramid, we simply need to multiply these 4 numbers together. Do not forget to also include that 1/3 when you multiply. Now, just like yesterday, if you have a scientific calculator at home, you can plug in the 1/3 using the ABC button. Remember, you plug in a fraction, you type in the numerator, then you type in that ABC button, and then you plug in the denominator. Okay, then you'll just type in times 3 times 4 times 7, and you'll get the correct answer. If you do not have a scientific calculator at home, it is tricky to plug these fractions in. So what I'll allow you guys to do is simply plug in 0.33. Okay, that is not the exact value of 1/3. It's a rounded decimal, but because of distance learning, that'll be fine, and I'll accept it as a correct answer. Okay, so if you guys plug in 0.33 instead of 1/3, your answer will look a little bit different than mine, but not much. Okay, and you'll obviously still get full credit. Okay, so I'm gonna plug in my calculator 1/3 times 3 times 4 times 7. When I do that, my calculator gives me 28. That tells me that the volume of this pyramid is equal to 28 cubic feet. Okay, if you plugged in 0.33 times 3 times 4 times 7, your calculator would have given you 27.72. That is absolutely fine. Type in that whole decimal, and you guys would have been given, and I'll even type that in here, you will be given full credit. Okay, all right, next one. Okay, I have another rectangular pyramid. I'm going to plug in, I got to identify first my length, my width, my height, which I did for you. So I simply need to take those 3 measurements and plug them into my formula. Again, I already typed in that 1/3 for you. All right, now I got to plug in my length. My length is equal to 3 centimeters. I don't have to plug in those units of measurement. It just takes up more room. Then I got to plug in my width, which is 1. Whoops. And then I need to plug in my height, which is 7. Okay, now in order to find my volume, whoopsies, I forgot one. Now, in order to find my volume, I need to multiply these 4 numbers together. So I need to multiply 1/3 times 3 times 1 times 7. Okay, again, I'm first going to plug in 1/3 into my calculator, then times 3 times 1 times 7, and I get 7. Okay, if you plugged in 0.33 instead of 1/3, you will get 6.93. Okay, and notice how, again, guys, look, it's very similar. If I told you to round this decimal to the nearest whole number, you would round it to 7, so we would get the same answer. All right. Okay, next one. Another pyramid. I told you the length is equal to 6 feet, the width is equal to 8 feet, and the height is 7 feet. So I got to take those measurements and plug them into my volume formula. So instead of writing L, I'm going to plug in my numerical value for the length, which is 6. Bring down my multiplication sign. Instead of writing W for width, I'm going to type in the value of the width, which is 8. Bring down my next multiplication sign, and now I got to plug in the height, which is 7. Okay, so in order to find the volume of this pyramid, we had to multiply 1/3 times 6 times 8 times 7. And when I do that, we get 112. Okay, now if you plugged in the decimal, as in 0.33, you would have gotten 110.88, which I would have given you full credit for as well. Okay, do one more. Okay, here we have another pyramid. The length is equal to 2 inches, the width is equal to 3 inches, and the height is 5 inches. So again, we simply need to take these three numbers and plug them in to our volume formula. Okay, so my length, like I said, is 2, my width is 3, and my height is 5. Okay, so in order to find the volume, I simply need to multiply 1/3 times 2 times 3 times 5. And if you plugged in the actual fraction, you should have gotten 10. If you plugged in the decimal, as in 0.33, you would have gotten 9.9, which again, very close to 10. So you would have been given full credit as well. Okay, you guys are now going to complete the volume of pyramids assignment. Again, make sure you are plugging in all your numbers into this pink text box and then multiplying those four numbers together. You guys can't forget to multiply your measurements by that 1/3. That's part of the formula. It has to be multiplied. Again, if you have a scientific calculator, please plug in 1/3 as a fraction using that ABC button. If you're using your phone or another device, please you type in 1/3 as 0.33. Okay? As always, guys, if you have any questions, please ask me.